You're listening to the Telltale Channel. Don't forget to check me out on all social media: Patreon, Twitter, Teespring, and Etsy. All links can be found in the description or on my website, telltaleatheist.com. So the next article I wanted to take a look at is on the Friendly Atheist website. It was written by Hemant Mehta. The title is Potential SCOTUS Pick Amy Coney Barrett Would Undo Ruth Bader Ginsburg Legacy. It's no longer potential Supreme Court pick. It is now the nominee. This is who Trump picked as of like yesterday or today or something. This is brand new information. Let's read the article and see what it says. With Republicans eager to pick a Supreme Court replacement for Ruth Bader Ginsburg while they still have the power to do it, no matter how obvious the hypocrisy, Amy Coney Barrett has once again moved to the top of many a short list. As I said, she is the nominee now. The 48-year-old judge was considered by the people who control Donald Trump for the Supreme Court opening that later went to Brett Kavanaugh, and no doubt the GOP would love to replace Ginsburg with another woman. Even Russia wants her nominated. Barrett, who once clerked for Justice Antonin Scalia, was appointed to the 7th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in 2017. In that time, to quote Slate's Mark Joseph Stern, she's written or supported decisions that harm unpopular and powerless individuals who rely on the judiciary to safeguard their rights. More to the point, she's almost certain to overturn Roe v. Wade, given the opportunity. Someone who said Notre Dame shouldn't cover contraception for students and was already pre-approved by the Federalist Society as a justice who would side with conservatives for decades to come. Seriously, why don't Supreme Court justices have term limits? Why do they have lifetime appointments? This is bizarre. This is like, they really should not have lifetime appointments, seriously. I think a bill has been written out in the House to set 18-year term limits, which, interestingly enough, is unique because the House of Representatives have 2-year terms. Every 2 years, there's an election to determine who gets the House of Representatives. Every 4 years, the president has an election. And every 6 years, the Senate has an election. As far as I know, the bill that passed through the House to add term limits to the Supreme Court says every 18 years they'll pick a new justice. That's particularly interesting to me because that is a multiple of 6, but not a multiple of 4. So they would be going on a Senate cycle rather than a presidential cycle. Basically, if this bill passed, which who knows if it will or not, it'll probably be swept under the rug and completely ignored, just like the coronavirus bailout bills have been. If that actually went through, it would mean the Supreme Court justices would be elected on a senatorial cycle rather than a presidential cycle. So, something to think about. Let's continue reading. Another reason she's a perfectly Trumpian pick is that she's almost guaranteed to bait liberals who dare to question her faith. Barrett is a self-described Roman Catholic, though she belongs to a specific group called People of Praise that's unaffiliated with the church. Her involvement with that group was unknown when she was confirmed to the appellate court. This is a quote. Some of the group's practices would surprise many faithful Catholics. Members of the group swear a lifelong oath of loyalty called a covenant to one another and are assigned and are accountable to a personal advisor called a head for men and a handmaid for women. The group teaches that husbands are the heads of their wives and should take authority over the family. Fascinating. They also believe in prophecy, speaking in tongues, and divine healings. Is it weird? Hell yes. Is it any more weird than believing a wafer turns into the body of Christ, that Jesus died, then came back to life, or that a literal devil exists? Not at all. Okay, now it may not be weirder than those things, but speaking in tongues and divine healings and prophecy, those are unique. It's not just about belief in those cases. To speak in tongues and to do divine healings, quote unquote, you basically, as a preacher, you have to get the audience into almost a trance-like state for them to feel a kind of euphoria which leads to them babbling nonsensically, which leads to, speaking in tongues, for example, or for them to believe that a divine healing is taking place, you have to have this euphoric feeling in your chest, which is brought about by trance-like states, meditative-like states, singing, cheering, prayer, all that stuff adds into this trance-like state. So the point is, it's a little bit different than a wafer turning into the body of Christ, or that Jesus died and came back to life, or that a literal devil exists, or whatever else. I mean, most Christians believe some form of those things, but putting your people into a trance-like state like that is very different. It's a very different situation. Let's continue reading. Raising questions about how her faith might influence her court decisions is almost guaranteed to backfire, as conservatives will just claim the questions themselves are a form of religious persecution. Big surprise. Of course they will. That's already what happened during her 2017 confirmation hearings, when we didn't even know about her specific religious beliefs. Senator Dianne Feinstein created easy fodder for Republicans when she said of Barrett, "The dogma lives loudly within you." She was suggesting, not unfairly, that faith would influence Barrett's decisions, but it was widely seen as a knock on Barrett's faith itself. There are much better ways to get to the heart of how her religion influences her thinking anyway. For example, in 2005, as a law student, she co-wrote an article for the Marquette Law Review called "Catholic Judges Involved in Death Penalty Cases." If the church opposed capital punishment, but the law allowed for it, what should a Catholic judge do? Barrett wrote, quote, "We believe that Catholic judges, if they're faithful to the teaching of their church, are morally precluded from enforcing the. That means they can neither themselves sentence criminals to nor enforce jury recommendations of whether they may affirm lower court orders of either kind is a question we have the most difficulty in resolving." That's extremely interesting to me. So first of all, I agree with her on this point. I agree with her that capital punishment shouldn't be something that anybody is ruling on. I don't think we should have capital punishment. And my reason for that is, it's kind of a controversial position. 4% of the people sitting on death row right now are completely 100% innocent, didn't do anything. They were just in the wrong place at the wrong time, completely uninvolved in whatever crime took place, and there was just a straight-up miscarriage of justice, and they ended up on death row for no reason. Imagine you're walking down the street, cops arrest you, accuse you of a crime that you did not commit, throw you in jail, sentence you to death. 20 years of your life, gone. 4% of the people on death row are in that situation. Until that number is 0, I can't justify the death penalty. I can't do it. Are there people who deserve it? Yes, probably. Yes. But if we can't tell which ones are which, without a shadow of a doubt, with 100% accuracy, we can't do it. It's just wrong. That's my position on it. But the real point behind what is being said here by Amy Coney Barrett is the fact that she's willing to put her faith above the judicial system, put her faith above the law. That's the key here. This situation, I agree with her. But that's not really the important point here, is it? The fact that she's willing to put her faith above the law at all is a luxury that a Supreme Court justice cannot afford. You can't have a justice who's willing to do that. I think that should be an impeachable offense for a justice or for a judge. She shouldn't be a judge at all if this is how she feels. Let's continue reading. That last bit is a convenient cop-out for someone who may soon be in that very position. She said in the conclusion, "Judges cannot, nor should they try, to align our legal system with the church's moral teaching whenever the two diverge. They should, however, conform their own behavior to the church's standard. Perhaps their good example will have some effect." This is Hemant Mehta. It's not hard to see how Barrett would find harmony between the church's stances and a Supreme Court decision to overturn what many conservatives have referred to as another quote unquote. In fact, in that same article, Barrett referred to it as always immoral and said that it takes away innocent life. I think that this is kind of a unique situation that we're looking at here. So Republicans have owned the government from 2016. They owned the whole thing, 2016 to 2018, right? They had the judicial branch, the executive branch, the president, and the legislative branch, both the Senate and the House. They had the entire government, Republicans did, right? It's an issue that they have been harping on for who knows how long. From 2018 to now, they have owned the Senate, the justice system, and the executive branch, the president. Why, in the past 4 years, have they not done something substantial, something substantive to stop? Why? You cannot tell me that they were incapable of it. You can't tell me that. They have been. Republicans have controlled the entire government for the better part of 4 years. Why have they not done something about it now? This is my own personal conspiracy theory. I believe they haven't done anything about it because it brings in a lot of donations. It's a really good donation machine for them. If they just solve the problem, no more donations. They just dry up. They're gone. I don't really have any hard evidence for that exactly, so it is kind of a conspiracy theory or whatever. I don't know. It's very suspect to me that this conversation that they've been having for decades is now a solvable issue that they have the power to solve for 4 years, and they still haven't. Strange. Let's continue reading. In fact, in that same article, Barrett referred to abortion as always immoral and said that abortion takes away innocent life. Would she distance herself from that position? Not necessarily. This is a quote. The article also noted that when the late Justice William Brennan was asked about potential conflicts between his Catholic faith and his duties as a justice, he responded that he would be governed by the oath I took to support the Constitution and laws of the United States. Barrett and co-author John Garvey observed that they did not defend this position as the proper response for a Catholic judge to make with respect for the. We've already pretty much established that she's ready to go down with the ship, defending her religion, standing to her religious convictions rather than the law of the land. She's basically ready to be an activist judge. That's extremely concerning to me. Let's continue reading. This is Hemant Mehta. Barrett wrote in 2013 that legal precedent could be called into question if the judge felt a previous decision was wrongly decided. Soft stare decisis helps the court navigate controversial areas by leaving space for re-argument despite the default setting of continuity. That attitude, if applied, could mean the end of nationwide same-sex marriage and abortion rights. If there's a conservative position to take, she's going to take it. That's why she was placed on the Federalist Society's list. That's why, if she's nominated, Democrats must do everything in their power to prevent her from getting on the court. There's too much at stake, and if Democrats are unable to stop her confirmation, they should vow to eliminate the filibuster and pack the courts if they ever get the ability to do so. I agree. I'm not a Democrat necessarily. I don't like the Democrat Party, but I will sure as shit be voting for Biden this election because Trump is a cult leader. I've said this on the channel before. I say this with a completely straight face. I've been studying cults for years. He's a cult leader. So I will vote for the candidate that is not a cult leader. That means Biden's got my vote, and it's an enthusiastic vote because I do not want 4 more years of a cult leader.